right, Shalom. First and foremost, I want to begin by giving all praise, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Rachakwadash. Double honors to the apostles and the elders at the great millstone who taught me this truth, and much respect to the Akim at the Laban in his work. Peace and salutation to the hopefully elect who are scattered abroad across the four winds of the earth. To you I say, Shalom. Yeah, so I wanted to go into a quick news and prophecy update, just, dealing with the current season in which we're in which we know that Jacob's trouble is on the horizon, a time period like never before in which these devils, these Edomites would eventually come down with great wrath, primarily upon you Israelites. Understand that this time is short. And so this is what we see being initiated currently as Trump, who we believe to be that cruel Lord, and Isaiah 19:4 has been given permission to set the stage for Jacob's trouble, this great siege upon Jerusalem, as we're starting to see troops be mobilized. As you read here from Fox News, look at it, the stage is set. See that? Who arrived? The spirit, the stage is set. So it says National Guard mobilizing in 19 states amid immigration and crime crackdown. President indicates Chicago and New York could be the next targets for expanded operations. And we know that immigration is tied into you so-called, Latinos and Native Americans, which are the Northern Kingdom. And crime crackdown is tied to you so-called blacks, the Southern Kingdom. So this is these devils shooting in secret at the perfect. All right. They're aiming secretly at you tribes out there. When you read the what is that book, The Art of War, deception is pretty much, I think it says all war is based upon deception. You don't want to let your left hand know what your right hand is doing. So they're not gonna, come out and tell you exactly what their plans are. But we know that according to the testimony, and their plans overall is, basically to destroy the poor, to destroy your Israelites, man. And they're gonna accuse you. They're going to set up false flag events, and ultimately you're going to be the blame for a lot of these things that goes on. All right. As far as these chaotic events in which we're going to see America really spiral out of control due to so-called terrorists. Right. And again, you're going to be tied into that, just like they got you tied into what immigration and crime crackdown. All right. So yeah, the stage is being set. And I believe that they're putting these pieces in play for these troops in these different states because they're going to bring forth, again, terror attacks, giving them, the ability to crack down quickly, to shut these cities down, to declare national emergencies, and ultimately lead them to what martial law. So real quick, before we play the video I want to play, let's go to 2 Kings 16 and 74. It says, "Hear, O ye my beloved, the beloved is the house of David, the elect. Saith the Lord, Yahweh Shema Shai, behold, the days of trouble are at hand." What trouble? Jacob's trouble. We've been constantly warning you about these times, my apostles. On down, man, those who have this testimony that the time of trouble is near. It says, "But I will deliver you from the same." So the elect are going to be saved out of Jacob's trouble, according to Jeremiah 30 and 7. But it's going to be the worst time in human history, because these devils know that their time is short. So I want to play this video right here from MSNBC entitled, "We are trending towards martial law," right? This is a gradual process leading up to martial law. Former Trump official slams National Guard deployment to DC. So I want to highlight in this video right here that, something that Trump said about the troops being in DC. And how pretty much they got 30 days for them to be there, but if something happens in between that time, then he can decide to declare a national emergency and just keep them in the city. Now, we know these devils want these troops permanently within the city. So what does that entail? That could be an event, a chaotic event, that could allow these devils to declare a national emergency. So let's hear this real quick, and then we'll go into the scriptures and get another video and we'll close it out.
With the Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth confirming that National Guard troops deployed in the Capitol will now be armed and authorized to carry out local law enforcement duties.
Yeah, and so remember before when Trump said that these troops will not be armed, so now all of a sudden they're armed. You see how these devils work?
His justification? A single post on social media calling the move common sense. And Trump himself is making clear this deployment may not end anytime soon. In fact, he's floated keeping troops in D.C. indefinitely and even suggested other cities could soon be next.
I mean, I keep seeing about a 30-day deadline of which we have 22 days left or something, but
next.
I mean, I keep seeing about a 30-day deadline of which we have 22 days left or something, but if I think we're in great shape here, that's one thing, but if I don't, I'm going to just say it's a national emergency, and if I have a national emergency, I can keep the troops there as long as I want. When we're ready.
There you go. So he got 22 days left out of the 30. And if things don't go according to plan, if chaos or civil unrest ensues, basically, then he can declare a national emergency and keep the troops there. So the next 22 days are going to be interesting. And we know how these devils get down as far as, you know, starting fires with these false flag events, agent provocateurs. So things can get out of hand very quickly. All right.
We'll go in and we'll straighten out Chicago, just like we did D.C. Chicago is very dangerous, great place. I built great stuff there. I have the most beautiful building in Chicago, I think. But I hate to see what's happened to Chicago.
So before we continue on, let's get something real quick. So right here, you know, because the national emergency is not officially martial law, but it's a step towards it. So right here, no, from AI overview, it says no, a declared national emergency is not the same as martial law. A national emergency is a formal declaration of a state of crisis that grants the president specific powers to address a situation, while martial law is a much more extreme measure where the military takes control of civilian functions and suspends civil law, a state for which there is no current explicit legal authority for the U.S. president to declare. All right, so a national emergency, a declaration of a national emergency, is a mechanism for the president to access emergency powers and resources to respond to a crisis such as a natural disaster or civil unrest, you know, which applies into this situation. These powers can be used to impose tariffs, take action on immigration, or other measures as permitted by law. While it provides expanded authority, it does not mean the military takes over civilian functions. So what needs to be done for martial law to be declared? Martial law involves the temporary suspension of civil law and the substitution of military authority for civilian rule. It's typically invoked in times of severe unrest, war, or natural disaster. So severe unrest, war, or natural disaster, where civilian authorities are unable to maintain order. So in the United States, there is no explicit provision in the Constitution or a specific federal statute allowing the president to declare martial law, all right, so on and so forth. So historical attempts to invoke powers similar to martial law have often been based on misinterpretations of laws, like the Insurrection Act of 1807, which allows the president to use the military to enforce laws in specific circumstances, but not to replace civilian government. So basically, you know, when things get chaotic, out of hand, in which that's what they want, order to chaos, you know, that's going to be the time period in which they're going to declare martial law, in which, you know, your civil rights are going to be stripped away and handed over into the military, right? So it starts with national emergency, then it's going to be so chaotic to the point where martial law is going to be declared. That's going to be out of hand. Then, you know, paving way for what the UN troops, the peacekeepers, to come in and get control of the situation, man. So ultimately, we know these devils want to bring in the foreign troops, in which they're already here, you know, because they're the ones that are not going to show any mercy at all towards you Americans out there. So this is a build up until that very moment. So let's go back into this video.
Miles Taylor, Kimberly Atkinstor, and Paul Butler are back with us. Also in that, the president said that he was going to floating using the regular military to tackle crime. He's talking about Chicago, and in it, he says, the people in Chicago are screaming for us to come. They're wearing red hats just like this. They're wearing red hats. African-American ladies, beautiful ladies, are saying, please, President Trump, come to Chicago. As the beautiful African-American lady on our panel, Kimberly, I want to go to you first because this isn't about crime, right? If it was about crime, there are actually things that you can do to tamp down crime, right? There are things in the
Yeah, that's a deeper, underlying issue here. It's about the tribes. It's not about crime. It's not about immigration. All these things were set up and, put in place to, label you tribes so they have a reason to come at you, man. So yeah, they see that, and she's gonna make a couple good points as she speaks. I'm gonna let you hear it, and then we'll get back into the scriptures.
DMV, the Baltimore has done to tamp down crime in his city, and I guess what does it say that we are in a time where the president is just saying, I might send the regular military to come into Washington D.C. or to go to Chicago? And it doesn't seem like the sirens are going off in the country.
Yeah, so on the legal sort of front of this, there is a principle, posse comitatus, there's a law, Posse Comitatus Act, which states that military should not be used in a law enforcement capacity against American citizens. The reasons for that ought to be obvious. When you see that sort of militarized control by a government, I've seen that in places like Beijing. That's not what democracy is
also not trained for that. My dad wasn't in the military.
That is not their mission. It is not the mission of the military, which I think you've seen a lot of issues here, not just with people not understanding what their mission is, but chain of command. When everybody's claiming to be in control, it actually makes a city less safe. But as you said, it has nothing to do with that. Donald Trump has had a bugaboo about American cities for years, but you can go all the way back to his time in New York when he claimed, and still won't let go today, that the exonerated five, the four children who were charged in that horrific Central Park attack, he insists that they are guilty, and he insists that they should still be jailed at this point. He put out the full page ad about them wanting to, they should be getting the death penalty. This has been something about Donald Trump in American cities, particularly American cities.
And I got a video going into that I want to play as well. If you ain't heard about that situation back in 1989, showing this devil's true colors, man. And we know the Esau never changed. So this is their motto.
Cities that have large Black populations that he has wanted to assert some control. And he's using DC because he has a little bit more leeway because of the federalization of the city in so many ways, the congressional control that's here to sort of run a dry run of what he wants to see carried out in American cities. As somebody who is here, who lives here, who is a taxpayer in Washington, D.C., what he could have done if he cared about crime was release more than $1 billion in funding that Congress is still holding up, that can go to things like public safety, that can go to things like hiring more cops, which Trump said he does not want to do. He's not even good at hiding the subterfuge of all of this. And that's what seems so dangerous to me, because we are seeing militarized people show up at the homes of Black people and harass them for doing nothing but living and existing in their lives. And that's what Trump wants.
When Mayor Bowser was here.
Yeah, so there you go. So let's go ahead and play a video right here as she was speaking about, dealing with Trump in this situation back in 1989. As you see here from theguardian.com, Donald Trump and the Central Park Five, the racially charged rise of a demagogue. So in 1989, 5 Black and Latino boys were wrongfully convicted of raping a woman jogging in New York City. Leading to the charge against him was a real estate mogul whose divisive rhetoric can be found in his presidential campaign today. So we're going to see how this devil's, his thoughts have not changed. His plans have not changed. And his true motives is to get at you so-called Blacks and Latinos, as he's currently doing. So let's check this out. 3 minutes, 53 seconds, and we'll get into the scriptures.
You better believe that I hate the people that took this girl and raped her brutally. You better believe it.
the vicious rape and beating of a 30-year-old investment banker, Trisha Miley, who was jogging in Central Park last night. 5 youths are in custody and are being questioned. The youngest is only 13.
Trump put his money where his mouth is by taking out this full-page ad in 4 New York City newspapers. Bring back the death penalty.
When I first saw this ad that Donald Trump made, I knew that this famous person calling for us to die was very serious.
5 teens between the ages of 15 and 17 were charged with numerous rape, sodomy, and assault counts.
In 1989, myself and 4 other individuals were arrested and falsely accused of raping the Central Park jogger in a case that became widely known as the Central Park jogger case. We became known as the Central Park Five. In 2002, we were found to be innocent after the real perpetrator came forward, and that was confirmed by DNA evidence.
These children.
All of the defendants gave videotaped statements to police implicating themselves or others, but some of their attorneys charged today that police obtained the confessions by force.
People wanted to see how the justice system would work. And so they were looking at this case as a litmus test to see whether the justice system would actually be just or not. And it became very clear that there was this huge black and white kind of thing. These black and brown individuals had raped a white woman in Central Park. That was the worst thing that anyone could have ever done.
What are you afraid of for our city?
This racism, I'm hoping doesn't break out into another racism thing like back in the 60s.
There are other worse things that are happening in the city. And when it happened to a black, they never do the media's never here.
You know, back in 1989, there was a huge divide when you think about the haves and the have-nots, the tale of two cities of sorts.
Most people know why this man is too famous.
In May of 1989, Donald Trump read an ad that ran in all of the major newspapers. In this ad, he basically was saying, bring back the death penalty. Bring back our police. Common citizens were not given the opportunity to make their own judgments. Common citizens were being manipulated and swayed into believing that we were guilty. The simple premise was that if your name was in the paper, if you look like a criminal because of the color of your skin, well, you have to be guilty. So Donald Trump, he was the fire starter, I would say. Because when you think about going to jail for a crime that you didn't commit, 1 day in jail is too long. When we won the lawsuit, his stance was that we pulled off the biggest heist in New York City's history. But to see that he has not changed his position of being a hateful person, to see that he has not changed his position of inciting people, to see that he's still the same person, and in many ways he's perfected his sense of being that number one inciter. What would this country look like with Donald Trump as being the president? That's a scary thing. That is a very scary thing. What would the world do in response to that? Man, I can't even imagine.
Yes, as we can see, we're living that out right now. It's playing out right before your eyes, man. See? So we're in those times. Civil war is on the brink. The state is Trump is getting ready to put these troops in these different states. Ultimately, chaos is going to ensue, and these devils are going to come hard at you, so-called blacks and Latinos. Trump, even recently spoke about bringing back the death penalty, man. Let's see if I can find that real quick. Trying to bring back. Yeah, so right here, this is from the Southern Poverty Law Center. Trump's executive order mandating use of the death penalty. What does the executive order do? All right? On January 20, 2025, President Trump issued an executive order titled Restoring the Death Penalty and Protecting Public Safety. It falsely claims that the death penalty is necessary to deter violent, lethal crimes. It specifically calls for the Attorney General to seek the death penalty for every federal crime when a law enforcement officer was murdered, or when the person alleged to have committed a capital offense is an immigrant without lawful status. The order encourages states to do the same. It also instructs the AG to ensure that states have a sufficient supply of drugs used to carry out lethal injections. I think it was another one dealing with the the guillotine as well. Firing squad, guillotine. But yeah, I mean, basically, this cruel Lord is making himself known. Trump is definitely that cruel Lord, man. It's not him, then who is it? Isaiah 19 and verse 4. So it says, "In the Egyptians will I give over into the hand of a cruel Lord." The Egyptians are you Americans out here. Cruel Lord is Trump, and the fierce kings shall rule over them, saith the Lord. All right, the Lord Yahweh shall host. So we're seeing troops being stationed in these different states, and all this division and tension brewing up, and eventually what a civil war is going to break out. So verse 2, it says, "Now we'll set the Egyptians against the Egyptians," because it's ultimately the Heavenly Father who's behind all this. Okay, he's the ultimate puppet master causing this division, but he's using the elites through Trump. And I would set the Egyptians or the Americans against the Egyptians, the Americans. All right, Democrat, Republican, class wars, right? Race wars. "And they shall fight everyone against his brother, and everyone against his neighbor, city against city, and kingdom against kingdom." So out of all this chaos, man, it's gonna come what order, national emergency, martial law, ultimately UN troops. You see, to the point of where you're not gonna be able to go in and out of your cities. Producing with famines. Let's go to 2 to 15. Second to 15, Salakia. And verse 14. So it says, "Woe to the world and them that dwell therein, for the sword and their destruction draweth nigh. And one people shall stand up to fight against another with swords in their hands." Man, this is division, civil war. "For there should be sedition among men, and invading one another. They should not regard their kings nor princes. In the course of their actions shall stand in their power." And I was reading today on, ChatGPT about, what could arise that could initiate the UN troops, being mobilized or given the authority in America. And it spoke about, governors being put to death, different officials, so on and so forth. So when chaos really breaks out and it seems like there's no control, they're going to call in the peacekeepers to really, bring forth the hell in America battling great, man. You see, they're going to shut everything down. It says a man should desire to go into a city and should not be able, because everything's going to be cut off. The cities. It's going to be a siege. "For because of their pride, the city shall be troubled, the houses shall be destroyed, and men shall be afraid." Because people are going to be getting their heads blown off, tortured and all this shit. "A man should have no pity upon his neighbor, but shall destroy their houses with the sword and spoil their goods, because of the lack of bread and for great tribulation." Because of the siege, there's going to be a lack of bread. You're not going to be able to go in or out. All right, because it's going to be too much chaos in the cities. And our Lord Yahweh Shai, spoke about the time of 70 AD, some 30 some years prior to it actually taking place. And We know those same times are coming. Is that Luke 19:42? In these times, right? The siege of Jerusalem, then with you Israelites is going to happen all over again. It's going to be worse. So Luke 19 and verse 41, it says, and when he was come near, he beheld the city and wept over it. So we know that the city represents the people first and foremost. All right. Again, he was seeing 70 AD, some 30 some plus years in the future, saying, if thou hadst known, even thou, at least in this that day, the things which belong unto thy peace, but now they're hid from thine eyes. Okay, so just like now, back then they didn't really understand. Our people today, they don't understand what pertains unto that peace. So when we warn our people about, Jacob's trouble, they can't see it. It's hid from their eyes, so they can't seek protection, by repenting and coming back into Yahweh by Shem Yahushua. So just as Yahushua was prophesying about trouble, we're doing the same thing. 43, for the day shall come upon thee, that thine enemy shall cast a trench about thee. See, that's what's currently taking place in your cities. A siege, and compass thee around, and keep thee in on every side. And they shall lay thee even with the ground. All right. Because ultimately they're gonna be like madmen sparing none. They're gonna, have you laid out on the ground. It says, and thy children within thee, and they shall not leave in thee one stone upon another, because thou knewest not the time of thy visitation. So they're gonna be laying people down within these cities. All right. And these devils are craftily and subtly creeping up on you jakes up there, but you can't see it. You don't know the time of your visitation. So this was being prepared right now by these devils. And we can see that Jacob's trouble ain't far, man. All right, the time of trouble is near. But as the Lord said, he would deliver us from the same. Let's go back to 2 Edges and 16, and we'll close it out. So 2 Edges 16, and we'll start at verse 68. Matter of fact, verse 67. Behold, the Most High is a judge, right? Himself is a judge. Fear him, because he's the one that's bringing his wrath. Leave all from your sins and forget your iniquities, to meddle no more with them forever. So shall Yahweh Shemashah lead you forth and deliver you from all trouble. For behold, the burning wrath of a great multitude is kindled over you, and they shall take away certain of you and feed you, being idle, with things offered unto idols. So eventually, security is going to be it's going to be a lawless period of time. Chaos is going to be so bad that they're going to want to do what, restore security, restore order. So they're going to have people being rounded up and put into these detention centers, isolated, idle by themselves, in which they're going to offer you the thing offered in the idols, which we know to be the chip, as a form of what? National security, due to all the hell breaking loose. It says, and that they consent unto them should be had in derision, and in reproach, and trodden underfoot. Those who consent are going to be trodden down anyway, for there should be in every place and in the next cities a great insurrection among those that fear the Lord. This is what's taking place right now. And they eventually shall be like madmen, sparing none, but still spoiling and destroying those that fear the Lord. See that? So these are the times that are coming. But remember, the Lord said he would deliver us from the same. As you read in verse, we'll continue on now, verse 74. So verse 72, for they shall waste and take away their goods and cast them out of their houses. And then shall they be known who are my chosen, and they shall be tried as a gold in the fire. It's going to be known in that moment, who the men of the Lord are, man. All right. So hear, O ye my beloved, said the Lord, behold, the days of trouble are at hand, but I will deliver you from the same. So be ye not afraid, neither doubt. For the Most High, Yahweh Shemashah, is your guide. because he's gonna guide the elect in these times. Okay, keep them from evil. So yeah, I just want to go through that real quick. So Lord willing, you're edified. Until next time, I say shalom.